Oh, that was a lot better from Swansea. 3 points in the bag and just in time for the visit of the Bluebirds in this weekend's South Wales derby. We are going to preview the massive game here on Where Swans Walk. Welcome. Oh, that feels a lot better with 3 points on the table. Welcome, James and Jimmy, as we will affectionately call, to make things a lot smoother. How are you both doing? James, you enjoyed that, I'd imagine?
Oh, night and day compared to the last performance. I think it's the first time I've got excited at home in about 12 months.
I've watched the highlights and I've read the reports. Jimmy, even the neutrals that have watched the game were saying Swansea played with such fluidity. It was a pleasure to watch, someone wrote. Were they that good?
Honestly, yeah, I think we were. If you compare the sheer difference to Middlesbrough, is like night and day. Way better going forward, creating chances. I don't think we had a shot on target in the whole Boro game. We had one in the first 30 seconds of this one. So it was definitely different, playing more like what we want to see, the Swansea way is what we've always said. And I think we got a very good glimpse of that against Preston.
Okay. Well, welcome back to Where Swans Walk. Coming up then on the most comprehensive and quickest review of all Swansea content across the internet. We are going to bring in our Cardiff fan in a second. We're going to talk about bubble fixtures and are they still needed. We're also going to talk about why Swansea have had such dominance in this fixture over the number of years and get these two to talk about central defenders and where they think the Swans are at. We're also going to ask you in the comments to comment on who are the best pairing of central defenders that Swansea have ever had. We're looking for the partnership and not the individual. Comment below. We'll get James and Jimmy to give their views on that at the end of the video. Lots to get through then. Let's start with Preston. Okay, I'll do the devil's advocate bit here, James. I put it to you that Preston were just that bad.
I wouldn't disagree with you at all, to be honest. They looked completely devoid of ideas. There was absolutely nothing positive about them whatsoever. Usually you get a bit of a new manager bounce after someone leaves, but it just felt like Ryan Lowe's football and the way he was handling things was still hanging over them, and it was just no fluidity there. It looked like there was no plan. But at the same time, I thought we were really good. And they say you can only beat what's in front of you. And we were a joy to watch on Saturday. We tore them apart from the first minute.
It's always good for strikers to get their first goal, Jimmy. And now help me out, Zipatinic. How are we saying that as going forward?
Zipatnik, I think.
Zipatnik. Okay, let's call him Zan, shall we? Zan got his first goal. Give us your overview of his whole performance.
Yeah, no, obviously he came off the bench for Cullen. I can't remember what minute it was in, quite about halfway through the second half, and he showed really good signs. I think if you look at the goal, his movement is really good. It's what you want to see from your striker, getting into the areas where he can be on the end of a cross, and he was perfect cross to him, taps it in. And I think with last season, that's what we missed. We missed someone in the box who can just tap the goals in, get hopefully can kick on now and get close to 15, 20 goals rather than what we saw last season, which was less than 10.
James, who else stood out for you then? There's lots of people heralding Ronaldo, but who else stood out?
Again, Om Ji-sung for me again. Every single time the guy touches the ball, you're out of your seat. He makes things look so easy. He's silky smooth with his touches. He just picks up the ball in a little pocket of space and he'll find a quality pass. He was massive for the penalty. Tried to flip the ball back in when you think it's going out of play, and we get a bit of luck and get a penalty for it. Gonzalo Franco as well. Again, I keep talking about we've missed someone who can really pick the ball up and drive with it. Has got a bit of steel about them. Again, probably covered every blade of grass on the pitch on Saturday.
Yeah, have a look at these takes. Daft Jones, Jimmy said, I've got a feeling that Abdullah is going to be a big player this year. Could you agree with that on what you've seen so far?
I think he's definitely going to have his part to play in the squad. Obviously, started the first game, bench second game. I think maybe not on the wing. I'm still not sold on him on the wing. He wasn't great against Middlesbrough, and I don't think he, again, like everyone will say, he scored on Saturday, yeah, but it was a very much Cooper did shoot and hit him on the back of the head and it's gone in off him. But I think, yeah, he'll have his part to play because especially with our transfer strategy, I don't see us signing many more players. So I think his versatility as well, obviously, is a great option. He could play in midfield, he could play out wide, defence as well. So I think he'll definitely have his part to play.
Okay. James, there's lots of appreciation for Cabango. This was just one of them. Looked incredibly composed today. We'll talk more about defence in a second. But can you agree with that shout?
Yeah. Back to his best. I really don't know what was going on at Middlesbrough. I said it looked like he was playing on roller skates. But watching him on Saturday, back to his composed best, dominant in everything that he did, and didn't even look like he was going to make a mistake at any point. So it's nice to see the old Cabango back again quite quickly there.
Okay. And the final shout we saw a lot of people writing about Jimmy was Franco, as James has just mentioned. He's a bit on the shorter side, but tackles like he's 6'3". Can't help be reminded of Flynn Downs. It's early days, but I'm excited. Jimmy, are you excited about this Swansea side?
Yeah, very, especially Franco. I think the Flynn Downs comparison is spot on. Since he left, we haven't really had that midfielder who just does the dirty work, doesn't have to do anything fancy, but just gets the ball and gets us forward and almost sort of slots into that defence in times in transition just to help out. And I think since Downs left, we never really replaced him properly. But I think, for only £2 million or whatever we paid for him, I think it could be a really, really good bit of business.
Okay. Good to get 3 points on the board then before this fixture then this weekend. James, what does this fixture do to you on the morning that you wake up for it? Just describe how it feels.
Literally, it's just pure anxiety from the second you wake up, and not in a bad way. You're literally like building up to it. You're down the pub at like 9 o'clock in the morning. It's all anyone can talk about. And we get to welcome the neighbours in as they all come in on the coaches, and the atmosphere really kicks on from there. It's one of those derbies where if you haven't experienced it, it is hard to actually describe it. It's probably, I would say, outside of Celtic Rangers, probably the most fierce derby in the country. I know someone who lives outside the UK. And he came and watched us and he said, I really didn't realise just how fierce and how much sort of vitriol there is between the fans. Again, if you've never experienced it, I would definitely say it's one of the ones you've got to experience.
Let's bring in our Bluebird. Okay, you two be nice now for at least 5 minutes. Welcome, Jamie, to Where Swansea Walk. What does this fixture do to you when it's Swansea away?
It doesn't fill me with confidence, that's for sure. Just simply because, you only have to look at the recent form. Again, whenever we make that short trip up the M4, it seems like fans turn up, but players don't, in all honesty.
We'll talk about the game itself in a second, but the bubble trip what the bubble fixtures is the only bubble fixture now left in the UK. Jamie, Cardiff wrote to Swansea, our fan group wrote to Swansea and South Wales Police this year and asked in advance of this fixture if it could be relaxed. Swansea apparently said no, and the police just went with that. That's the reports anyway. In your view, Jamie, does this still need to be a bubble fixture?
I think the jury's still out on it. The way I look at it is, if it's the only one in the UK and you see some of the rivalries in the UK, then you don't know what's going to happen unless you kind of lift restrictions. It feels like at times they feel like they think of things as the worst, and that's both sides of things, whether Swansea come into Cardiff or vice versa. Yes, I understand there's a mix of fans, in between the likes of, say, Port Talbot, Bridgend area, etc., etc. But at the end of the day, it feels like then if you don't trust fans or give them the chance to sort of prove it, then it's never going to happen. Like James said earlier on, when we come in, it's great from a Swansea perspective. Of course it is, because they're all by the roundabout, and what have you. And it's, it gets them going. Whereas if you're on the other end of that sort of thing, as an away fan coming in, especially with how small the coach park is at Swansea.com, it's like a game of sort of Tetris. You're having to wait on your coaches. And as soon as you get there, ideally, from an experience point of view, it's not great as an away fan, especially when it's televised, because we obviously have to lose a bit of that coach park then for the Sky Sports cameras. That's no excuse for the players, mind you. They don't have to experience that. The fans do. Them not turning up is on them at the end of the day.
Yeah. Jimmy, do you understand why it's still a bubble fixture, given obviously your experience of the vitriol that goes on?
Yeah, I think, I get why they do it. It's obvious, with history of this fixture, there's been pretty bad violence before it was a bubble fixture, obviously way before I was alive. But I think that there's a way to do it where it's not as restrictive, because I went to the away fixture and we won 3-2 in the last minute, and you're leaving at really stupid times compared to when the kickoff actually is. You're cooped up on a bus for 3-4 hours. You sat in the services for about an hour, and I just think there's a way to do it where you just go at a normal time. I'm absolutely fine with getting the coach there and back. That's fine. But I think 4 hours, 5 hours before kickoff when you're leaving to do a 40-minute drive, I think it's just a bit excessive.
Okay. Last year, Jamie, Cardiff beat Swansea at your place early on in the season, and then you were up for doing the double, something you've never done, and then it all fell apart at Swansea. Is it going to be any different? Is it going to be any different this season round? Because that game at Swansea, you could have been about 4-0 down, I think, within 5 minutes. If I remember rightly.
In my honest opinion, whenever we go up to the Swansea.com, it seems like a mentality thing. Our fans, we genuinely don't feel confident in regards to the way we're playing and the way our players conduct themselves. We've had a red card 2 years ago, and we've also had, I would say, a very lackluster performance last year. A home game was different. When you've got 30,000 fans behind you, pouring down the rain on a Saturday night, never easy. And from a Swansea fans' perspective, they didn't agree with their manager. Michael Duff, I think that was probably the worst performance I've seen a Swansea team play in years. So this time around, do I expect anything different? Well, after watching, the Swansea against Preston, free-flowing football, we played well 45 minutes, but at the end of the day, you look at the scoreboard, we lost 5-0 on the weekend. So you'd look at it and say Swansea are probably favourites going into this, on the weekend.
Is it true, Jamie, that Cardiff's performances have actually been better than what the results show?
I would say so. Being up in Turf Moor on Saturday for 45 minutes, we were by far the better side. Burnley were having to work. We were, sort of putting them side to side, but we just couldn't hit a barn door. And then when your goalkeeper just thinks, takes his eye off the ball literally, and that goes in, gives the home crowd a bit, something to sort of sing off. And then your centre half, he's been quite good for us probably for the last 12 months, but he just dives in and there's no need to dive in, leaving you exposed. And then, again, defensively, you're at 6s and 7s then, and you can't give someone like Burnley, who've just come down, the quality that they've got, the chance. So, yeah, second half was abysmal. As soon as that third goal went in, it was diabolical. So I don't want to see a repeat of that this weekend, that's for sure.
James, you love nothing more than beating Cardiff. What does it do for the town? What does it do for the what does it do for the city? What does it do for the club? I think we saw last year, didn't we? Your manager go out on the lash, if I remember rightly, following the Cardiff result, chugging Jägermeisters with the fans. That's not going to happen this time around, is it? But what will it mean for a comfortable result against Bluebirds?
I think it just gives a feel-good factor because it's such a small area that we're in. It's all people will talk about for such a long time after it. And again, it gives us some positivity. So this time round, with it being so early on in the season, if we could get a result this weekend, I really do think that could give us some more momentum, as well as the usual like bragging rights and the feel-good factor that it brings to everyone that supports the club or lives in the area. I really do feel like if they win this one, it's at a pivotal moment where we could really use that momentum. And who knows? It's not usual that we get it this early on in the season. It's usually midway through or at the end. So I'm interested to see if we can get the result, to see if that can kickstart something a little different, because notoriously we're slow starters. I've got a feeling if we win, we might go on quite a decent run.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that, Jimmy. I'll ask you: is it slightly ruined a bit? This is the third game of the season. It's not as much riding on it as perhaps usually in the past has.
I wouldn't say so. I think, it's always going to have everything riding on it for both sets of fans. It's the one game you look at when the fixtures get released. You look for when both the home and away games are. third game of the season, as James said, it could really spur us on if we get a result this early on. It's a perfect time to know if we win that, we go to 6 points. That'll probably put us in the top 6 after 3 matches. And then we're looking at games like West Brom, tough games. But if we can go into it with momentum, I think it will really be, it could be a really special day if we do win on the weekend.
Okay. All right. I'll get some score predictions in a second. Jamie, one last question for you, though. Why is it that Cardiff have had such a poor record at Swansea? What happens to the mentality of the players when they rock up to the stadium? You touched on it before.
Yeah, I think it is the mentality of it. I can use it as when we were at Ninian Park, for example. Swansea.com, everything is quite close. It does get very lively. Last season, for example, was the traditional songs, the pre-game playlist that was selected by fans, etc. And like you said, it's a massive day for Swansea and around West Wales. For them, I think our players just can't cope with it. Is last season especially. From minute 1, Swansea could have been about 4 or 5-0 up, and that's that was no joke. We just didn't put a foothold in the game, and we didn't do the basics. It's you're gonna get pressure, but you've got to deal with it. And for whatever reason, whenever we seem to play up there with fans in the stadium, it hasn't worked. The only time we've won up there, obviously, is that in recent years is the COVID season. But again, something has to change. Like you said, it's only the 3rd game of the season. We're definitely nowhere near favourites. And we're coming into it off, being bottom of the league with -7 goal difference. So it can't be as bad as a Burnley performance in the second half. But we just, as fans, we just can't lose. We just can't lose at the Swansea.com again.
Okay. Okay, time to make someone a hero. James, what's going to be the scoreline and who's most likely to bag the winner?
I'm going to go 3-0 Swansea, and I'm going to go Liam Cullen. Again, we saw last year, really came alive in the derby, gave them absolute pelters from the start. So, yeah, I'm going 3-0 Liam Cullen to get on the score sheet.
Okay. Jamie?
I'd take a draw, quite simply, just to stop the rot there. Let's go 1-0. 1-0. And that's me trying to be positive. No,
I can hear the despondency. It could imagine if you sneak a 1-0 win though. Just imagine what that does for your season. Jimmy,
I try to take all the derby stuff out of it when I predict these games, because I think if I looked at it, if this was their squad with any other team, I'd be quite confident. So I think 2-0 Swans. I don't want to get too confident because I know it's going to come back to bite me if they win 1-0 on the weekend. But I think Vipotnik, could really cement himself in this squad if he scores on Sunday. I think, Cullen as well is a great shout. He loves the game. He knows what it means as a Swansea boy himself. I think, Matt Grimes always turns up for this game as well. So I think hopefully we just do what we normally do and just get it done quick, and we haven't got to worry about this game then until next year.
Okay. Right. Thank you, Jamie, for joining us. Good luck. Enjoy the game. Enjoy all the time you're sitting on the coach in the car parks.
Yes, thank you.
We will catch up with you. Catch up with the reverse fixture later on in the year. Thank you very much. Okay, you two. Let's have a look at your central defenders list then. Last week we reviewed goalkeepers with you. This is quite short. I'm sure we're missing some, but this is taken from Transfer Market. I'm not sure all of these are. Will play centre back as well. James, you are desperately short in this area.
Massively so. That is actually quite concerning, because as good as Darling and Cabango are, we literally have there's Kyle Norton as well, but who's 36, 37 now, is still there. We've got Philip Lisser, who's come through our academy as well, who looks he's going to be a decent player. Azim Abdullah, I don't even think he knows his position at the moment. He's played centre mid, right back, left back, on the wing, so I wouldn't be shocked to see him at centre back, but this is something we need to address in the last 2 weeks of the transfer window. We need cover at centre back.
Okay. I also wanted to ask you both about a couple of other things which have developed Swansea over the last couple of days. Harry Darling, Jimmy, is into his final year of the contract. Should it be one of the priorities to get that sorted?
Yeah, straight away. No questions asked. Let him have whatever he wants, because he's such a key part of that defence. Him and Cabango are so good together, and I think he's really grown into it. Especially last season, I think he got even better than he was in his first season with us. So I think get him tied down as soon as possible, because it's not one we can mess about with and risk, if we leave it too late and then he ends up leaving on a free. That's the absolute worst case scenario.
Okay. We asked you to start for your best Swansea central defences pairing. Before we get to that, please do follow both James and Jimmy on Twitter. Jimmy, you're also right. You're also a football blogger as well, if I understand rightly. So we'll put the links to your content, which is excellent, into the description below. And James is the most outspoken Swansea fan on Twitter. Please do give him a follow if you don't already. Right, come on then, you two. There's only one right answer to this. I know this is an Everton fan, what the best Swansea central defensive pairing is. But James, who's it for you?
For me, it's going to be the simple one of Ashley Williams and Gary Monk.
Jimmy, would you agree?
Yeah, I don't think it's really debatable with them two, just proper, I don't think anyone else really comes close to that, to be honest.
Yeah, you don't win the League Cup, do you, in, 2013 without them two? I think that's a fact, isn't it?
We probably wouldn't be in the Premier League if it wasn't for Gary Monk's ankle. If that shot had when his ankle hadn't been where it was, I don't think we would have gone up in that game.
Fair enough. Yeah, and Ashley Williams. Unfortunately, Everton didn't get the Swansea Ashley Williams version. We got a very different one, but less said on that, the better. Listen, enjoy. Can you enjoy the game, Jimmy? I'm not sure. Can you enjoy these games at all?
I'm in work during the game, so I'm gonna have to try and find a way to have that one on in the background. But there's a nervy day becomes even more nervy when I can't actually watch it. So
okay. James, will you be able to enjoy? Were you able to eat, drink the same routine that you do, or will you do things differently?
Oh, I'll be able to drink. Yeah. I think that's the only way I'm going to be calm for it, to be honest. I think, a couple of beers and just try and take it as it comes. It's always that build up. Once the game kicks off and you're in full flow, is great. But the build up to it on the morning, it's you just like that. Literally from the second you get out of bed, I can't even sleep the night before. So,
all right, enjoy the game then. See you next week. Thank you for joining us on Where Swans Walk. Comment below on whether there's a better central defensive pair that you've seen as a Swansea shirt. And we'll be back next week to review it all with you. Fingers crossed. I will be watching. I think it's great for Sky to feature this in between the Premier League matches. And good luck. Good luck to you both. Cheers.